Welcome to Rev Up Your Potential with Hilda Gann, the stories about entrepreneurs, business leaders, and HR professionals and their successes and struggles along their journey. In this podcast, we also discuss the HR challenges that people face and the tips and strategies that have helped them. If you love to learn through storytelling, join us. And today, my guest is Siobhan Calderbank. She is the Senior Director of Talent Management and DEI, Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity at LCBO. She's also the founder of Butterfly Ladies. What a beautiful name. It's a mentoring program committed to helping develop the careers of underrepresented women and youth. She is an amazing person. So I'm going to read her bio because it is so impressive. She's a keynote speaker, a recognized learning leader, a consultant, a DEI practitioner, and an award-winning author. She's a featured book contributor alongside of Oprah Winfrey, Maya Angelou, John Lewis, Deepak Chopra, and many others. She's been seen on ABC, CBC, Fox, NBC, and CW. And I love this part. She was featured on a billboard in Times Square. I remember when that was posted on LinkedIn. I thought, that's my Siobhan. That's amazing. Here you are sitting in silence, Siobhan, but I got to read this for people because you are an amazing person, and we are looking forward to talking about change management, diversity, your journey as a career woman. So let me continue. She is a Universal Women's Network 2019 Woman of Inspiration Award recipient for her diversity and inclusiveness. She's also a UWN National Ambassador for Black women. She's recognized as one of the 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women 2022. She's also been selected as a Top Director of the Year in Talent Management 2021. Empowered Woman of the Year 2021, and the recipient of a Lifetime Achievement Award 2022 by IAOTP. I'm almost done. Siobhan will provide listeners with some insights into talent management, DEI strategies, change management, and leadership. I am so delighted to have you here, Siobhan. I really did have to read that because you are a most impressive woman. And welcome.
Thank you for having me here, Hilda. Super excited to talk to you today and our listeners.
I really want to get into, this is an impressive bio that you have. And it obviously comes with experience and exposure. I would love you to share with us how you came to this set of passions that you have.
Well, I guess my career kind of started in the learning field. Like I always really liked learning, and I liked it when that light bulb went off on people's head when they're like, "Oh, I got it." And so when I was going to school at the time, I was studying to do IT, and all of my electives were in learning. And then I really said, "Oh, you know what? I don't know if I really want to be the IT person. I think I want to be the learning person." So I sort of switched over there, and that's where my passion for learning really started to rev up, so to speak.
Welcome to the Rev Up podcast.
And so through the learning over my career and moving into different jobs, I really started seeing this morphing of project management come into play, because everything was, every new learning was like a project within itself. A program went out and then you go on to the next. So I wanted to, hone in those skills. But in particular, what I noticed with learning is change. Every time you introduce a new learning program, you're asking people to do something differently, or you're introducing a new process, new program, new procedure. And people struggle with that. Change, before we used to use a different code word around change. We used to call it strategic communications because we didn't want to scare people with the change management term. But now it's become, the norm, and people talk about change management. And still there's a lot of ambiguity around what does that actually look like in terms of strategies to help people get from point A to point B. And so I really started to pay close attention to how we can make it easier for individuals. And as leaders, how can we be better at supporting our employees through these sometimes very challenging times? And it really boils down to just listening and recognizing individuals for what the supports that they actually need. And so through that, in my career, as I started moving up, I hit a pinnacle where, I went through a divorce, and that's a massive change. So, you have to leverage strengths of resiliency, but then I really wanted to hone in on myself as a leader. How do I be a better leader to help support others, maybe others going through changes for themselves or others in the workplace? And so I went and did my master's in leadership. And for me, that was like the biggest change in my career, in my confidence, in everything. The program was amazing. The people I met were amazing. The professors were phenomenal. And through that, I got to use all of that learning in developing new programs, skill development, helping other leaders be more successful in their careers. And then, always in the back was that talent management. And a part of that stream was like diversity, equity, and inclusion, because you started noticing, there's not a lot of women in senior positions. There's not a lot of women of color in senior positions.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of individuals that identify as part of the 2S LGBTQ community. And there's people who have different abilities and they're also struggling. So how do we make this a little bit more of an equal playing field? But that in itself too requires a cultural change. So you can start seeing how all the parts start to morph together and to get me to where I am now. So now when I talk about being an inclusive leader or just being a really great leader, all of these connection points start to come into play where you're really leveraging the change management. You're leveraging the cultural change and the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And you're really focusing on the individual. How do I make their life easier, simpler, so that they can thrive in the work environment?
Your values and mine so much align. My concept of Rev Up, when I think about all the principles, respect, equality, valued, uniqueness, and potential, it's about inclusivity. And as you say, it's about when you try to make a place a better place, more inclusive, there is change involved. And with change comes uncertainty and resistance for some and embracement for others. And I love this concept of lifelong learning. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, IT, eh? She started with IT. So does that help you from a systems approach to implementing that change? Like, what is there in that IT mentality that you started with, but then veer towards talent management and lifelong learning? Like, how do these pieces fit in for Siobhan?
Sometimes I still don't know how the pieces fit in. When I went to school at the time, I actually really wanted to be a lawyer. And I thought, I'm going to be like Claire Huxtable from The Cosby Show. And I'm going to get the power red suit and I'm going to be all of that and help people, right? And then when I realized that this whole concept of being this lawyer really meant that you have to repeat what your clients say, and the clients were lying to me, I'm like, maybe this is not for me. And so then I looked at what's happening at the time, what would be the best career change. And IT was, happening. And I thought this might be a great opportunity. And at the time I was also working for a huge telecommunications organization. So I thought this was a great opportunity to expand my knowledge and maybe I could move up in the organization. And so I went into IT for 4 years for my undergraduate degree. But then through that is where I switched to learning. The wonderful thing now is I actually support IT as part of my role as an HRBP for IT. So, everything came back full circle, but I get them because I think there's some unique challenges that IT has compared to the other industries. And so I worked in an IT organization prior to where I'm at now at LCBO. I've had the opportunity to understand some of those nuances. So, what I say to people is you may make career shifts and you may study one thing and think, oh, what relevance does that have to do with my career, at this point? But it all sort of comes back. So, your question was really great in terms of like, how does IT now matches what you do? I support IT.
It's really interesting because I remember one time on an airplane and I was reading one of the magazines and they asked Chris Hadfield the question, oh, so what's it like to be a retired astronaut? And I thought, oh, that's an interesting question. To which he said, I'd like to think that everything that I've done before has brought me to where I am today. And when I read that that statement. I thought, you're right, because I spent 4 years of my life in the IT world. I was in healthcare, and computerization was coming, and they needed people to be that understand the patient care side and to help
Hmm.
with the IT side to bridge that. And so I had a background in ICU nursing, so there's a bit of tech there. And so I made that bridge, and I feel just like you, comfortable in that world of working with people who are in the IT background, because I get it. I get the way they think and how
Yep.
they do things. And so my HR, my IT, my nursing background has really helped me be the person that I am. So yeah, yeah. So I know you said that talent management seems to be the one place where you can do it all. Like it
Yes.
combined a whole bunch of things. So tell us more about that. How that really helps you feed your passion, but you're also a leader now. So you actually help influence. So share that. Share that.
Well, in the talent management space, you're developing programs to help talent, not just your senior leaders, not just the high performers, but all talent within the organization. And I firmly believe that everybody who works for a company deserves and is entitled to having some form of skill development programs in place. And
Mhm.
so we have our learning teams that are part of talent, and they support the development of individuals. We've got our succession planning, performance management, which is really important for people to understand what am I expected to do on a day-to-day basis. Because if they don't know what they're supposed to do, this is where confusion happens, and then you don't get the results that you're looking for. So as leaders, performance management is really key to setting those expectations and then checking in with feedback on a regular basis, not just once or twice a year. You have these awkward conversations. It should be ongoing
Yeah,
so that
yeah.
people know exactly where they stand at any given point in time. Then we have the change management component that also feeds into talent management too. And I find it's such a beautiful relationship between learning and talent, because you're always, anytime you introduce a new program, whether it's a talent program, a learning program, performance management, you're asking people again, do something differently, or you're orienting them. And this is where change comes in, because you want it to be accepted, something that they will want to do and know how to do, but you got to sometimes hold their hand along the way. So change is not just about sending out an email, but something is new. It's really about taking a look at processes and nuances and how we can make this simpler for individuals. How do we provide them with the support that they need when we introduce a new enterprise-wide program system? That's where our IT folks might come in, or a new process, or doing like cultural change at work too. And then the DEI component, which I find meshes a lot with the learning, but has a lot of change too, because again, it's a cultural shift in how leaders interact with people, how they make them feel included, how they make them create and foster that sense of belongingness. And so when you boil all of that together, you get like this beautiful marriage of helping from anywhere from new candidates that are interested to join your company to onboarding them, and then making sure that they get all the things that they need through all those moments that really matter in the employee experience.
I know earlier you talked about DEI and how in the space there wasn't representation of women of color or women or LGBT. Talk to us a little bit about some strategies that you feel would help those of us who are leaders or strategic decision makers in making a company more inclusive, more diverse.
I think there's several things you could do. So one, people need to see themselves. So when they look at who's running the show, who are all your
Mhm.
senior leaders, if they all look the same, then they're just going to say, you may talk about having diversity, but it's lip service, because
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
a misalignment between what you're saying and what they're actually seeing. So you need to actually hire people that are representative of all those underrepresented groups. And then, as part of the hiring process, when you're vetting your candidates, you have to diverse your pool. So we have a tendency to always want to go to some of the bigger companies like, our LinkedIn and Indeed, and those are great. You'll get some fantastic candidates there too. We got to expand that pool a little bit more. Sometimes you have your internals, you can ask them for referrals. You may go to other niche markets that know how to find individuals in those underrepresented groups, or target communities where you know that they're going to be talking and having conversations so that you can get a more broader talent pool base. Once they're actually in, now you have to create a psychological safety for them to feel that they can speak up, because it's all well and great you got them in the organization, but they're not going to stay if they don't feel a sense of belonging. So this is where you have to make it a public statement within your organization that you're committed to doing something, you have dedicated resources to take action, and that you're putting in initiatives and programs on an ongoing basis so people see action is really being taken. Things like having your senior leaders that are from different underrepresented groups speaking about their experiences creates a safer space for others to start talking about it. So I don't know about you, but I know that many of the feelings that I've had, we were kind of taught, like, you just don't talk about this in the work environment, right? If you felt that you were being slighted, or you felt that somebody overlooked you or talked to you in a very demeaning way, you kind of sucked it up. You might have told your close friends and family members, but it wasn't something that you would talk about in the workplace. Like, that was just the unwritten rule until now. I think now there's a shift where the door's been opened, where we can have the conversations. We can speak openly about our previous experiences and allow people the opportunity to reflect on their behaviors and make notable changes going forward.
And I agree with you. Before, you didn't do that. And now you can, but that psychological safety net's not quite fully open. Sometimes you feel that you can't say it in certain organizations. I mean, when you read about these companies who totally ignored, bullying and harassment, and it was more of a boys' club. And when people would say something, they were told to shut up. Right. Or they told, just if you want to go someplace, you kind of got to play with the boys. And I mean, that's not a psychological safety net. Right. And I find that although we are in an age where we should be more inclusive, we should be more diverse and equitable. I think belonging and inclusiveness are the key words. Diversity is more numbers, but the inclusivity, the creating a culture of inclusivity is the key. So what we need to do is help managers, leaders, and coworkers say it's okay to talk about it, to create that healthy culture, not make it something that's a policy on a shelf and stuff. So, I love
that's
that
where I encourage those courageous conversations.
Yes.
Right within organizations, where you maybe do this on an ongoing basis. It can't be a one and done where, one leader gets up one month and says something and then that's it. It has to be ongoing, and you need multiple partners within the organization to be supporting. So we talk about allies and allyship, and this concept of standing in solidarity with individuals who may be different from you. And that's extremely important, because that also helps to create some of that psychological safety. But people need to be able to know that if I speak up and I say something, that, the consequence won't be I'm going to be fired, but actually is I will be heard. And, we'll take pause and we're going to look at reflecting, and then action's going to be taken. And I think organizations that are able to hear those comments and then do something positively to change, and maybe circle back with the individual, publicly make statements, or they start implementing initiatives, that's where you start feeling more of that sense of inclusion and belongingness. And like ERGs, or those employee resource groups, are particularly important, because it allows you to also associate and talk to others that have gone through similar experiences that you've had, and that you can feel that safety to open up. And then that you have people who are going to support you, and then you can celebrate all of the diversity together.
Any suggestions, Siobhan, for those companies who want to but can't seem to find that ability to shift it from policy to practice?
Well, you just kind of have to do it. Like you got to writing down some stuff on a piece of paper is all well and good that nobody reads. You have to just start doing
Oh, I know.
something. Like I don't know how else to say it. I would
Oh,
start
that's so
it off with,
easily said.
yeah, I know, but we'll start with a committee. Have maybe start with the several of your senior leaders that you know are going to be your sponsors for this, and then have them have another committee to help work it through.
Yes.
If there's a lot of employees that are engaged that want to give back and they want to give back freely, so let them have employees lead some of these groups, and then they can start making those changes. But you definitely need some executive sponsors.
You got to find some champions and somebody, a couple of people at the senior team to be part of that champion.
Yes.
To get it going. For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because without that leadership, then that people don't think you're taking it seriously. So that's why that's so important. They need to see from the top that they're on board, that this is important to them, that we have a plan that we're going to be working through. And even if you don't have a full plan, at least you have a couple of people who are saying publicly that this is something I'm committed to doing. And then so start with like a leadership council, then have like organizing committees that are going to start doing that work. And then, this is where you start building the momentum. And it's not going to happen overnight. This takes time. Sometimes it takes years in organizations to make that shift happen. But that signal from your most senior people that this is something that's important. And you have some executive sponsors and champions that are going to make sure that this does happen in the organization is very important.
Can we get a little personal now? In terms of your own experience with diversity and inclusiveness, and how you've come to now embrace the ability to help others and help yourself feel safe to share how to be inclusive and how to be heard at the table, for example.
I mean, I've been in many situations where I've been told, yeah, you're great, but you don't look old enough, right? And that one is just, it's like, I don't know what to do, right? I guess I'm lucky that I don't have too many wrinkles and that I'm not getting them as much as I'm getting older. But that was it's a huge hurdle when you do really good work, but yet you can't get recognized. You can't move forward because they think you don't look old enough and wouldn't be taken seriously. Less of that happening now, but that did happen a lot in my career, or when I wanted to have a baby and then I'm being told, hey, maybe you should not bother about applying for that job for a promotion because you should just focus on your family instead. Or you just have these slight comments that people make about the color of your skin, your hair, if I want to wear it naturally versus if I want to wear it straight, and being told, hey, your hair looks too big, right? It's like, well, I don't know what that means, but that does play a real, like a mental game for you, because then you feel like everybody's looking at me and just because of my hair versus the way that I'm presenting or what I have to contribute to the conversation. And so then you want to feel that I got to look a certain part. So if I can speak personally, for me, I wear my hair straight because I don't want the comments of your hair looks too big if it's curly. It's curly today because I had to wear it when we're natural. I was down in Mexico earlier on this week. So, it is what it is. But now, when I'm at work, people are like, the conversation is different. It's more like, oh, I love it. It looks really great. Whereas years ago, that was not the comments that I was getting. And I felt I had to conform. I had to look a certain way so that others could feel more comfortable. And then maybe they'll be more open to what I have to say. But like, these are some of those things that used to plague me a lot. And then now that I'm at the table where I can actually have conversations, I can promote other people. I can tell them about, this individual needs to take a second look at. We need to hear what they have to say. And I think that's important when you get to the position where you can actually speak up on behalf of others. You should do that.
I love that last piece of advice, is that, in your earlier career, and I think at a time where we were in society, we were not embracing diversity as we do today. But now that you have your voice, you are helping others. You're paying it forward by helping others have their voice, and it's just going to make it better. like, as you say, we just need to start doing it, and we need
Right.
to be much more open and supportive of being more diverse and inclusive. And I love how we talked about allyship, because sometimes we forget that people of a different color, white males, as they sometimes say, they are supportive, and we just need to find people who are supportive of diversity and inclusion. One of the things I want to talk about is sometimes people take their inclusiveness and they almost wear it like a shield. Do you know what I mean? And they're
Yeah.
very defensive. And personally, I feel that inclusiveness should be about educating, supporting, and embracing it as a group, and not being more defensive and trying to teach people what they should know in a way that just creates more tension than more inclusiveness. What's your thought on that?
I think it's important that people just have just spaces to be able to be themselves. And sometimes it's hard when you're looking at someone that doesn't look anything like you. But there's many ways that you can still be brought into the conversation to feel that sense of inclusion, like
Yeah.
asking for someone's opinion, making sure that you've gone through, like, who's this going to impact? Are they at the table to be able to provide their point of view? And I think as leaders, we sometimes take for granted the amount of influence that we have and the power that we have just by our mere presence, what we have to say, and sometimes it's just the way that we look. It can really shift the dynamics of a conversation and really cause somebody to feel included or excluded, depending on what you say and what you do. I can tell you too, I'm just recapping a experience in my mind, going to do a speaking engagement and showing up and having the first question being asked to me is, where are you from? And that question alone can cause somebody to feel completely excluded from the conversation, the dialogue, even from the event itself. And then when I say, oh, I'm from, whatever organization, and then they're like, no, like, what's your background? I try to get funny and say, oh, my background's in leadership and DEI and whatever. And then they're like, no, I mean, like, where are your, like, where did you grow up? Yeah, I grew up in like Richmond Hill.
Toronto.
Toronto,
Yeah.
where like down
I
right?
love it when I thought, do you really want to know my ethnicity? Is that what you're asking me?
You're right. You gotta call it right out, right? But then why are you only doing it to me? Why are you not having this conversation with everybody in the room? And those are the things that make people feel uncomfortable. And then you don't feel like I can really be myself. Because now you're paying attention to where do you think I'm from versus what I have to actually contribute.
So share with me a piece of advice you'd like to give to our listeners on any subject matter that you're passionate about. I'll give you free reins on this one.
Well, I would say, it's really important for people to have three other individuals in their lives: mentors, coaches, and a sponsor, right? A lot of times people use those two words, mentor and coaches, interchangeably, right? But they're very different. A coach is going to help you with a specific skill set to help improve your abilities to get things done. But a mentor is really going to help guide you through your career. They're going to provide you with suggestions and really help you as you're navigating and trying to figure out what would be the best course of action, which is part of why I created the whole Butterfly Ladies. It's to really help provide you with a mentor, and there shouldn't necessarily be a charge for a mentor. Coaches, yes, they do charge because it's a skill set they're developing. Mentors generally are there to help you out. And sometimes they do get, charged for that too. But then the sponsors are very different too. They're the ones that are going to advocate for you behind the scenes. They're the ones that are at the table who can make those decisions as to who gets which opportunities. And you can't jump to just getting a sponsor right away without them actually getting to know you. And I think that's the biggest mistake a lot of people make. If you want someone to advocate for you, they need to get to know you and feel comfortable to speak positively about you. So take the time to get to know them and be very intentional in who you select as your mentors, and then look at moving that relationship at some point when they're comfortable to becoming a sponsor for you.
Thanks for that great advice. I mean, so many times people say you can't do it alone, and sometimes having a third person see who you are, it makes you feel positive and growth, and it also guides you and tweaks you along the way. So it's a really good thing to have. So what's coming up next for Siobhan?
Well, you can see me on some new videos that I've been creating on DEI from LifeSpeak if you subscribe to them. They focus a lot on wellness and providing lots of amazing content, and they've got some great subject matter experts that are able to provide that for us. There will be some blog posts you may see coming up from me, likely some speaking engagements in the future. And you never know, you might see me on another billboard somewhere.
And I heard it on good authority. It's going to be a real doozer, but we'll just keep that under wraps. But you have been such an amazing person, inspiring. I've watched you over the years just keep growing and more accolades, well deserved, and using your experience to help others and to help us with being better leaders, getting used to change and being more adaptive. So thank you, Siobhan, for continuing to be such a person who wants to make a difference. And share with us, what is that legacy? What do you want to say at the end of the day? This is what I did in my career and I'm proud of.
I want it so that whenever anybody met me, their life was better because they met me and because we had an opportunity to interact. I truly, truly, genuinely care about others and wanting them to be successful, which is why I love the whole concept of mentorship and being there to be able to give back. I feel that that's important to give back to communities and to really be able to help others. And I want to leave that and that, no matter where you're from, no matter what your walks of life, that doesn't define who you are. You can change. And if you've had bad things happen to you, it's about being resilient. You can choose to let that victimize you, or you could use that as a jumping off or stepping stone to do better things. And that's something that I want people to be able to take away from. But most importantly, what I've had to learn is just being authentically me. And that was hard at the beginning when, I started off with my career. And then over time, I think many of us know, and you probably too, you just care less about what others have to say or think.
Or maybe you're more confident in who you are. I don't know if maybe I don't care as much, but yes, I'm more confident in who I am and I can own that and feel proud.
More so because of the naysayers, right? You have to care less about what they have to say and know that you've got everything that you need inside. And when you come from a place of passion, people will feel that. And that's going to help, as we move forward in terms of where we want to go in life.
Well, I know you have a busy schedule. We booked this months ago, but I appreciated that you said, yes, Hilda, I want to share my message on your podcast. So I really appreciate you taking the time. How do people get a hold of you, Siobhan?
They can hit me up on LinkedIn if that's probably the easiest way, or if they want, they can go to my website at www.siobhancalderbank.com.
Thank you. And thank you again for coming today and sharing your thought leadership and your wonderful, amazing persona.
Awesome. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. And thanks for people for listening in. This is an amazing podcast because Siobhan has so many ideas about how to include people, how to kind of think about how you make changes and how to be a leader. And you can see how she loves to give and how she has a passion. So thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you loved her, give us a thumbs up, give her a thumbs up, and comment. And if you loved learning about people and their journeys, because you love learning through storytelling, then subscribe and follow and join us for other episodes, because I've got some amazing guests and they are really, really interesting to listen to. Thanks again and have a great day. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Rev Up Your Potential with Hilda Gann. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and Spotify to stay up to date on our latest episodes. For HR tips, news, and strategies, or if you're interested in being a guest on our podcast, visit our website at peoplebrightconsulting.com.